Hi, guys. Welcome back to the podcast. I've been meaning to watch that. I'm your host, Monica. We're back again. New week, new topic, new guests every single week. And this week, we are joined by a very stellar guest. This is someone that I have been a fan of for a very long time. I'm sure if you're someone who is into YouTube video essays, you have absolutely seen her videos in your YouTube recommended. I am positive without a doubt. She has some real big bangers like, is Harry Potter bad? And with her iconic thumbnail saying, yes, it is. But you have to sit and watch the full 56-minute video, guys. And she is someone who is very smart, very intelligent, very thorough. She is a Florida native. She is an amazing YouTuber and someone who is a phenomenal thinker. And I am so happy to have her on the show with us today. You may know her as Hoots on YouTube, but her name is Amanda. So we're gonna say hi to Amanda.
That's right. Hi, thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming on. I am so happy to have you. Um, I actually remember the other day I was starting your video on the I forget his name. It was just watching the video, but it was the incel.
Elliot Roger.
Yes.
Yes.
His name just started
That
with
was
an E.
actually an episode of my podcast,
Ooh.
Respect the Dead. But because that one was like 3 hours long,
Mm-hmm.
we decided to host it on my channel. And I think my podcast co-host Kaylin has got an episode of our podcast coming up that they are going to host on their channel because it's also a big one. Just hosting it and in a different spot to like get like different eyes on it and
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Okay, awesome. I'm gonna leave all your links in the description. That way people can, check out your stuff and like listen to your podcast. That's great. And I'm
Thanks.
so happy to have you on because today we're gonna be talking about the movie Poor Things, which was a huge hit last year. It is a Yorgos Lanthimos film. It was starring Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, also starring Rami Youssef and Willem Dafoe. And the show received a lot of critical acclaim, received a lot of awards during award season. And the show is also, the movie, sorry, not the show, the movie has been criticized for adopting the born sexy yesterday trope. So we will be exploring the movie Poor Things while exploring the born sexy yesterday trope and seeing if this movie, pulls from that trope, if it subverts it, talking about that. But before we go into the main part of the podcast, we're going to start with Media Mania, our beginning segment. We talk about new releases, entertainment news, and the like. And recently, you had let me know that you were going to watch Jennifer Lopez's movie musical, right?
Hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
movie musical that's not a musical and not a visual album, but somewhere in between. And
Right.
I had seen so much on TikTok about it, and I wasn't planning on watching it, but when you brought it up, I was like, let's talk about it. Let's like review it, analyze it on the podcast, and instead of doing Media Mania like we usually do it, we're just going to really like do a like small mini review of Jennifer Lopez's "This Is Me Now" saga that she has,
Yes.
thrust upon us via Amazon Prime.
This is me now. Her passion project, her magnum
Mm-hmm.
opus.
Yep.
Um, with the accompanying documentary, The Greatest Love Story Never Told, that is a half an hour longer than the movie that it's a making of documentary of.
Yeah. And I am going to be very honest with the listeners here. I'm not really like a big Lo fan, I guess I have to say, because I was always a fan of her movies, and I didn't really watch her music. I didn't really listen to her music. Sorry, not watch her music. I haven't really listened to her music, so I feel like This Is Me Now was kind of like my first foray into like Jennifer Lopez, who she is, her career, her past, and I think that was the situation for a lot of people who possibly just
Hmm.
only know Jennifer in a very like cursory glance kind of way. Like I watched um, Maid of Honor. I've watched Monster in Law. I've seen a lot of her movies, if I'm being honest. listen to her music, not really. Maybe if it's like playing at a party, then I'm like, oh, that's J Lo. You know what I mean? But as many
Yeah.
people know about Jennifer Lopez, many people know that like she's a great dancer. She's from the Bronx. Something other people know also is that like there is a rumor, we could say, that she does not sing her own songs. You know that Aaliyah
Hmm.
is famously known for singing a lot of her songs, and so I feel like this was meant to be a passion project to like shut down the haters and let them know like this is how Jenny does it. You know, like Jenny is a big.
She is an artist. She is a triple threat.
I'm so
Uh,
sorry. I'm meant to take this seriously. I can't.
my actually, I watched both of these movies with a friend of mine. I had plans to watch it with a friend of mine, and we turned it into a bit of a drinking game. But I was telling my friend like my mom has always hated Jennifer Lopez because of the singing thing, because she's like, I don't get why she's a singer. She's not a singer. And I'm like, yeah, well, I mean, it's I to be fair, a lot of pop stars are that way. She's a dancer, she's a performer. She's amazing as like a rom-com star because she's so pretty. She's so pretty and she's like fine at acting. I don't think she's like the best actress ever, but
Mm,
like she's the the main positive thing that I think my friend and I landed on when we were watching the other night was she's so pretty. She's
gorgeous.
she's so pretty. She looks great.
Yep.
She's like 52, I think.
Yeah, she is.
She looks not a day over 31. Like whoever, like whatever her skincare routine is, like she's figured it out. Uh, both movies are a fucking mess. Am I allowed to curse on here?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Both movies are a mess.
Yeah, girl.
I don't know what was going on.
Mm,
Like I said before, like the documentary is about an hour and a half long, and the film itself is less than an hour. Um, it it starts with this like almost kind of like a very Disney-esque prologue about like a what was it, like the princess of like of an indigenous culture who like falls in love with someone. And my memory is hazy now because I was drinking while I was watching this.
uh-huh.
And one of our drinking game rules was to drink every time a CGI hummingbird appeared on screen. So I was already two shots in like by the
Mm,
time the prologue ended.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, so she falls in love with someone. They get pulled apart, typical Romeo and Juliet style, and
Yes.
then like they need to find each other throughout all their reincarnations. And I was like, at that point, I was like, I'm on board. I am on board for this. That is not the movie we saw, though.
Mm,
The movie we
yeah.
saw was like a J-Lo insert.
Uh-huh.
Um, who like gets married three times and like has a penchant for bad boys that her 25-year-old friends don't like.
And I do want
Um
to say real quick, at the beginning
yeah.
of the movie, when she mentions like the star-crossed lovers, I in my head I'm
Hmm.
like, oh, is this a real thing? Like, is she pulling from like Puerto Rican
Right. From
history?
actual mythology.
No, it's not.
No.
She's making this up. And then I was like, oh, okay.
Which I would be fine with if then we got that story, like the
Yeah,
story about star-crossed lovers like
yeah,
meeting in another life or whatever, finding one another.
yes,
But yeah, she just like she gets married three to and divorced three times, and
mm,
then like her growth is like she attends one of her ex's weddings and is like fine with it. Also upstages the bride, dresses in a much flashier dress than the bride is wearing, which I think is a bit rude, but
yeah.
she's fine with it.
I remember when I was like watching that and I saw that, I was just like, that is, it's giving narcissist. But it reminded me of an old interview that I found. I tried to find it again when I was like actually doing the research and building the outline for the podcast. I couldn't find it, but like basically J Lo did an interview in the '90s, I think, and she was talking about a lot of actresses who were also popular around the time that she was popular in the 90s. So,
Hmm.
like Winona Ryder, Gwyneth Paltrow, those kind of ladies. And she was
Right.
basically talking about how she's better than all of them and how she's prettier than all of them. And these girls can't compete with her. I was just like, this is this is giving like very much like narcissist because it's very different from
Yeah.
like it's different from when there's this very popular clip of Issa Rae interviewing Zendaya, and Issa asked her
Hmm.
like, how does it feel to know that no matter what these other girls do, they can't compare to you? And it's funny because Zendaya is really like an it girl, but Zendaya never comes out and
Right.
says it. Everyone just kind of like
But she is
acknowledges
the it
that.
girl.
Yes. And
She is the moment.
Jennifer, yes, she is the moment. Exactly. Like she's blonde now and people are obsessed as they should be. When Challengers comes out, I'm going to like lose my mind, cuz I'm excited for that movie. But with Jennifer, she is like trying to insert herself into the role of it girl.
Right.
It has
This
to
and
be
all of this is new to me. Like, I
mm,
guess kind of this similar to you. Like, I mean, JLo has always been on my radar, but like,
mhm.
I've never really paid like close attention to her. I'm not a stan.
Mm,
So and I knew like the one thing I knew about her was well, the two things I knew about her is like she and Ben were like the it couple. They were Benifer and now they're back together. And that she doesn't drink. And I guess I just assumed that because she doesn't drink that she must be like really normal and really boring and like not a little freak. And I think she's I think you're right. Like it's giving a little self-involved.
mhm.
It's a little um maybe sometimes the confidence is misplaced.
Yeah.
Um like she is beautiful and like
Yeah.
I think she has everything that a pop star should have. She's a great dancer.
Mhm.
She is a
Amazing.
passable singer with autotune. And again, I think she makes a good rom-com. But
Mhm.
like to be like I am like Gwyneth Paltrow and Winona Ryder don't have shit on me. It's like first of all, why are we creating this like pointless competition between women?
Yeah.
But secondly, um, they've been like very well respected actors their entire careers. Like,
Mhm.
what's this about?
Um, I'm gonna be so honest. This morning, I found a video. It just came on my For You page because TikTok is like, girl, let's be messy for a second, and I want to see if I can.
TikTok is driving the messiness.
Yes, I want to see if I can play it for you.
Oh my God, amazing.
Because it's
Plug my-
so
Sorry.
interesting that I got this.
Sorry.
No, you're
I
fine,
forgot.
girl.
I forgot to plug in my laptop. I know it's gonna die if I don't. Okay.
No, you're fine. You're fine. We can always
I
cut it
plugged
out.
everything else into my laptop except for the charger.
That happens. Okay. I was gonna see if I can upload it to my Google Photos, but sometimes my it takes forever to do that. So I'm gonna try and see if I can send it to myself because there is this like reoccurring theme going on with Jennifer Lopez that I feel like some people see it, some people don't, and I didn't realize this until like doing all of this research. But it feels like for many celebrities they face criticism for their work and for
Right.
their art, And it's fine if, you know, you react to it or like you feel some type of way about it, because like this is your job. You are someone in the public eye. You have people that are constantly like doubting you and talking about you and like, you know, second guessing your talent and like everything you bring to the table. So it honestly feels like a lot of the times that J Lo is trying to prove a point. You know, she's trying to like
Right.
prove that like she belongs
Prove
here. Like,
herself.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like her talent is enough. You know, and anybody who doubts that,
Hmm.
anybody who doesn't see that is just like, you know, they need to either get with the program or get left. But there's nothing around like, I feel like there isn't enough people around J Lo that make her know that, hey girl, um, like even the list of celebrities she lists
Yeah.
out, mm-hmm, that's
I
enough.
one of the one of the items on our drinking list for, so we had two separate drinking games. One was for This Is Me Now, and one was for The Greatest Love Story Never Told, which is the documentary. And for the
Mm-hmm.
documentary, like one of our things was um celebrities or yes men, like sparing J Lo's feelings. There's a lot of like couching things in order to not offend or anger or upset J Lo. Um, she doesn't surround herself with a lot of people who are like gonna be like, actually, I think that's a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
And this will make for a bad movie. And like I think This Is Me Now is a testament to that fact. I actually think like it's totally fine that she like did this so totally self-produced um you know mess because it was like her particular passion project. But I think her passion project, maybe, like if she actually did want to make like her magnum opus, um she probably should have accepted like feedback from other experts in their fields,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
when it comes to like filmmaking and stuff, and writing, and, like, so that she can be like, here are my ideas and like the themes that I want to express, and like uh someone else who like is better at filmmaking can be like, okay, this is how we're going to hone this
Yeah.
into something that is like comprehensible. Because that was like the big thing that I walked away from This Is Me Now with, was like, what, like what just
Yeah.
happened, what
Yeah.
did I just watch? And like
Exactly.
it's not because it's like a visual album music video type thing. I actually love stuff like that. That
Yeah.
is my jam.
Yeah.
And if you want, like,
Absolutely.
if you want it to just be like a series of music videos that are kind of like tied together with like a very loose plot, I am down for that. Like one of my
Mm-hmm.
favorite movies is Across the Universe, which is like the Beatles version of just that. Or Beatles covers version of just that.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Totally here for it. This was incomprehensible. I had no idea
Yeah.
what was going on. And it wasn't just because I was drinking tequila.
So I found a TikTok from somebody who worked with J Lo. It was like a one time thing, but I want to share it with you right now. That way you can watch it together,
Amazing.
because I feel like it does add to the conversation. So give me one moment. I'm gonna share it.
Amazing.
Oh wait, something happened. Um. Okay. Then this. Okay. So. Okay. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, I made sure to share the tab audio as well, so make sure this isn't muted, and I'm gonna play it for you. The video's a little bit long, but I'm gonna play the whole way through because it doesn't feel long. Like the way he tells the story, it's pretty short.
I have a J Lo story.
Oh, I can't
The
hear
year
it.
is 2019.
Oh, you can't hear?
Um, no.
Hold on, let me see. Mm,
Oh, I
Yeah.
think the presentation is muted,
The presentation is muted. Oh, that's weird.
like the shared screen.
Why is this muted? That's so strange. Hold on. I've never done this before.
It's totally fine. All of these like video conferencing apps are so complicated, like across the board.
Okay. Alright, so I'm gonna share the tab audio and then I'm gonna hit share. It's saying you can't unmute someone else's presentation even though this is
Yeah, that's what I
my
see.
presentation.
That's what
Oh,
I see. Yeah, what's going on?
that's so strange. Google Meet, why are you doing this to me? I literally like I've hold on. Nope, that's not what I'm trying to do. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm just gonna tell you the story. I wanted to play the video for
Okay.
you because it was like, a little bit better. So maybe I'll just like cut the video into the actual recording. But essentially, the guy, he was a dancer with J Lo when she did the Motown tribute for the Grammys in 2019, and
hmm
he remembers the experience not going very well because she was very I don't know if it was a controlling or whatever it was, but there were not a lot of black dancers in the tribute, even though it's Motown. Motown is a black owned label, and whenever like the black dancers would like kind of like get closer to the center, she would ask them to go back, like move to the back. And then there are all these articles coming out asking like, why is J Lo doing the Motown tribute? She like, why her? And
Yeah.
you know, I guess some of the people that were working with J Lo that also work with the Grammys came to talk to the dancers, and they're like, "We know you guys have been seeing some bad press. We just want to like encourage you guys and let you know everything is cool." And then J Lo comes out, and she's like, "We're gonna show them why I'm doing the Motown tribute." And then she like raises her fist up, and he like loses it. And then there was another dancer who was a black dancer and a woman, and she was great. She was a really good dancer. She was like showing out, but every time she would like obviously do her job, Jayla would also ask her to be pushed to the back. And at the time, he had a hairstyle of like braids of cornrows,
hmm
and J Lo was like, "So what are we gonna do with your hair?" As basically telling him to like change his hair for it to be like more Motown, and he did. But everyone else had like modern haircuts, like modern hairstyles, and it was only him
It's
who had to
just
change.
him.
Who had to change his hairstyle? Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
Not a good look, J-Lo,
No,
honey.
girl.
Jennifer.
Yes. And I remember that
Um,
vividly when they announced that she was going to do the Motown tribute because I was
that's so
also thinking that.
weird.
And she also included a salsa breakdown as well.
The classic Motown salsa music.
I'm dying. I'm dying because this reminds me of when I watched Halftime, her um like Netflix film about her performing at the halftime show, and I felt like it was weird because she performed with Shakira, and like Shakira's not
hmm
really in the documentary, and she also said that she didn't feel like she needed to perform with Shakira, which doesn't make any sense because Shakira is a global star,
Yeah.
ma'am. You're lucky if they recognize you in Australia, if I'm being honest. Like, the people of Latin America know Shakira. They know her well.
Yeah. This is again, all of this is new to me
Mm-hmm.
because I guess I've just never paid attention. But like this is part of the my friend who like approached me and was like, "We need to watch this together."
Mm-hmm.
Was like, "Yeah, it's coming out that like J-Lo is like impossible to work with,
Mm-hmm.
really mean, really like," and I was like, "This is all blowing my mind." And this has been going on for years, for
Mm-hmm.
like 30 years now.
Yeah, and it's very interesting to see this happen because oftentimes people look at celebrities and they feel like, they're pompous, they're full of themselves, like these people don't deserve the fame that they have. And for me personally, I'm not gonna like unsheath my sword and defend one of these people who could very easily
Right.
change my life if they just sent me like $20,000. Like I
Hmm.
don't need to do that. That's not my job. I have a real job to do. You know what I mean? This is for fun. And with J Lo, it feels like she is someone who is like the celebrity that some people like despise. She wants to be heralded
Yeah.
for her work. She wants to be seen as an expert. And even though she is talented and she is hardworking, and her Wikipedia page is long, she's obviously done things. She's obviously accomplished. Like, no one's taking that away from her. However, it feels like she is constantly vying for legendary icon status, but
Hmm.
she lacks the chops to get there. And me, as a Beyonce fan, I can't help but look at some of the things she's done and be like, girl, you're not her. Like doing a Netflix documentary about your halftime special after Beyonce did a Netflix documentary about her performance at Coachella, which literally like shook the stage and shook America.
Hmm.
And then you doing this like movie, whatever it is about your album after Beyonce did Black is King, like I'm seeing parallels, and it might be the stand in me, it might be, but also like sometimes if you cannot do, you have to do what other people do.
Mimicking. But also,
Yes.
Beyonce is so prolific. Like, she's released so much.
Mm.
And this is J-Lo's first album in 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it's like, I mean, Beyonce has kind of earned making about the making documentary. And like I think, making documentaries about like a certain performance that you did or like a an album that you made or whatever is like fine, whatever. Like some people really enjoy getting that kind of like behind the scenes look at like
Mm-hmm.
the creation of like a work of art. So I don't really like I don't care that people are doing stuff like that. I think it's weird for to have like a behind the scenes on like a bad movie
Mm-hmm.
that comes out at the same time, like before the movie even gets to like get cult status for being bad. And also the fact that the documentary is a half an hour longer than the movie itself. That's
Mm-hmm.
weird. Um,
I also felt
but I
like
mean,
in the documentary they didn't have enough for it to
mm,
like be a
yeah,
documentary, which is why a lot of the stuff in there felt like unnecessary and irrelevant and
filler. Yeah.
yes, filler. And I do want to say I've never followed JLo's relationship status. I've only like maybe heard about it through other people. So I know that she was with Mark Anthony and that she was with A
Hmm.
Rod. And I was surprised when she got with Ben because I was like, wasn't she gonna get married to A Rod? And then I found out through Google's that like she left him, I guess, or they broke up, and then she married Ben. And I was like, this is a lot to do. Like even for me, like I stopped talking to a guy for 2 months, and I'm like, I have to stop dating for a year. I can't do it. I need a break. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
to see Ben in a documentary is very interesting because Ben Affleck is a great actor, very accomplished writer, very
Hmm.
accomplished director. But to get to know him personally, I feel like it's interesting because we don't know a lot about his relationship with Jennifer Garner, even though like paparazzi follow her and her kids and him
Hmm.
everywhere they go. He's not really like talking about it or opening up about it, and she isn't either. Not really. Like they keep that pretty private, which I
Hmm.
respect, you know. But obviously, this is different because Jennifer seems to really like attention, and Ben does not because every single time the paparazzi catch him, he has a Starbucks and or
Yeah.
he looks like he's in anguish. So it was interesting to
He
hear
looks
him.
so uncomfortable in the film as
Mm,
well.
girl.
And yes, what limited insider information I have about Jennifer Garner and Ben
Mm-hmm.
Affleck, because I used to go to the same church as them, is that
Oh,
like for quite, I don't know their relationship now because I haven't gone there for a long time.
yeah.
But like for quite a long time after they split up, they were still very amicable, like great, like co-parents,
Mm-hmm.
still brought their kids to church together, that kind of thing.
That's nice.
And yeah, they're just like fucking private about their lives.
Yeah.
This is like weirdly public.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that consistently was like blowing my friend's mind is like in several interviews as well as in the documentary, J-Lo describes her love of Ben from 20 years ago to now like as like the love of her life, and she like lost the greatest love of her life. This is the greatest love story never told. And it's like you were married to Mark Antony and had you were married to Mark Antony like 6 months after you broke up with Ben, and were married to him for 10 years and had children together. Are your children not the love of your life?
That's a good question. And I think one part of the documentary people don't talk about is when Ben draws a comparison of his alcoholism to her relationship with attention, which you could say is like an addiction. And I did see a TikTok
Yeah.
about this, which I'm glad because like I feel like no one was really covering that. Like everyone was talking about how like he does look miserable and like he doesn't want to be there. But I think one thing I can appreciate about Ben Affleck is that he's one of very few like white men in Hollywood who like have a platform, have a voice, and he sounds like he has learned something over the years of
Mhm.
his life, and he is like more than happy to share that with people. And one thing he does share is that it just feels like she is more attached to the idea of what people see of her or like the persona she like portrays rather than like doing work on herself,
Mm,
because to
yeah.
take the time to like ground yourself, to work on yourself, to take the time to examine your relationships, that means possibly just taking some time away from the spotlight. And I don't know, he makes it seem like she can't do that because she literally shared like very personal letters that he wrote to her and like a book that
Yeah.
he gave her. And he definitely was trying not to sound annoyed, but he was definitely annoyed by it. So,
Yeah. It was
yeah.
really, yeah, it was like really personal information that she was like getting out for the cameras. And we were commenting on that at the time
Mm-hmm.
when we were like, you know, 1.5 movies in and shit face. We were like, that's weird.
Mm.
Just pulling out the shoebox full of personal letters for the camera.
Like it's
Like,
proof.
yeah, it's very it's wild.
Yeah.
It's 11 out of 10. Recommend everybody watch these.
I'm gonna be so honest, like I tried to get through it and
Hmm. They're kind of
I
boring, actually.
they're boring, but also like me personally, whenever I'm watching something and I feel secondhand embarrassment or I feel cringe, I have to take a break and I have to pause and I have to step away.
Yeah,
And I've
there's a lot of that.
I've tried to rewatch this so many times, and sometimes when I'm watching it, I'm like, girl, I'm 26 years old. And sometimes I feel like I do not have my life together. I'll just say that right now. But one thing that I am confident in is that my L's will never be anyone
Mm.
else's knowledge. Never broadcast that to anyone else. And she is broadcasting her
Yeah.
L's. She is broadcasting her woes. She's broadcasting her sorrows. And of course, she's a public figure. Like, we get it, girl. But also, like,
Hmm.
the way that this came together does not feel like the strong Latina woman that she is making us, try to believe that she is. This just, it feels like
Yeah.
a lot of posturing. And I'm gonna be very honest with you. I don't like, why is Fat Joe your therapist? Why am I looking at Kiki
Why?
Palmer, Jane Fonda, Kim Petras, Trevor Noah? Why is
And
Trevor
Neil
Noah here?
deGrasse Tyson.
Oh my God, Jesus,
And
please.
and also Sadhguru. Like the collection of celebrities is
Random.
bizarre.
Strange. She really sent out that mass email to like everybody in her
Hmm.
contacts.
And she
I
got
yeah.
like 12 replies.
I'm not surprised that Kiki said yes because Kiki will not say no to a check if she feels like it's good. I I support that about her. I do, but I feel like if
It's
this
it was strange. It was a
this was meant to
weird
be,
menage.
yeah, this is not the re-entry into music that you should have put out into the world. And the fact that there are
No.
people who have not listened to your music before, like me, and are not well adapted in your music career, like me, and only know things about you, like how Aaliyah sang most of your songs, and how you're a better dancer than a singer, and you have given this to us as a way to prove yourself as a top-notch singer, top-notch performer, top-notch actress, the one to watch. Girl, this was not it. And the
This is
ticket
not
sales just say it all.
anywhere near it.
Mm, because I have never heard of an artist who has had the career of Jennifer Lopez having to restructure a world tour because ain't nobody want to see you live, you know. And it's getting worse now because her ex-boyfriend Diddy is now wanted by Homeland Security, and the streets are saying that you used to sneak illegal firearms into the club for him. So
Jennifer.
it might be that this tour may not happen, girl. You may be going to the C block instead of, you know, Jenny from C block. So,
Jenny from C Block. Okay, just I know we've been talking about this for way too long, but like also like the Bronx thing is very funny
it
because
is.
it's like, okay, you moved away when you were 18. You are
Mm-hmm.
now 52. You can't keep saying like I'm from the Bronx. Like, no, girl, you're from LA.
Hmm.
You're from LA.
I mean, there are plenty of celebrities that like are New Yorkers, but there's a difference between like Cardi B and Jennifer Lopez. Like when Cardi
Yeah.
B says she's from the Bronx, it's like, yeah, girl, we know. Jennifer Lopez says she's from the Bronx, it's like, oh, the same one?
But she constantly has to remind us. And it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
you moved out of the Bronx in 1989. You
Mm.
moved to Manhattan and then immediately started working and you've lived in LA for decades now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, girl, you haven't been to the Bronx since like I was born.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And there was a clip, I know you saw this clip where she like made her hair
Yes.
like crazy. And she's like, this reminds me of when I was in the Bronx and I was doing crazy stuff. I was like, oh, this is, oh, we're doing too much
I was
now.
also on our drinking game for the documentary was like any hair fusses or
You know, I always love it when people, like prominent people, public figures, want to open up and be vulnerable because I'm always down to learn. I'm always interested to see people's background and where they come from because a lot of people have very
yeah.
interesting stories and they've been through a lot. Like Mark Ruffalo is someone that I really admire as an actor, as an activist, and he has like
Hmm.
a very interesting story that I always found like to be kind of close to something I've had like friends gone through. So I always admired him for it. So really, and this is me now, I was hoping for something more personal and more vulnerable. And
Right.
I think Ben was right that like it's possible that Jennifer Lopez has not done the work to kind of break down certain things within herself to be able to
Hmm.
open up to people in that way. And saying you're Jenny from the block is not enough for some people, you know?
Hmm. Yeah.
Also, what have you done for the block since you left, Jennifer?
Yeah. What have you done for the community that you left?
Yeah, girl.
Like you want the cred of being from the Bronx. Like you want the cred of being just Jenny from the block and being like humble. Um, but like what ties do you still have to the Bronx?
Mm-hmm. I mean, she all I hope for is that like she figures out what's going on with her tour. But if Homeland Security comes knocking on your door, girl,
Mm.
I don't know about the door no more. I don't know, and I feel like they will come a knocking. They will, baby. Mm-hmm. Okay, I feel like that is a good place to stop in terms of like Jennifer Lopez and Media Mania. So we
Right.
will go ahead and dive into the meat and potatoes of the podcast,
Hmm.
covering poor things in the Born Sexy Yesterday trope. And for those who don't know about the movie Poor Things, it is a film directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. I believe, I don't know which one of his films this is. I think it's maybe a six. or maybe
I think
his.
so. That
Okay,
number sounds right.
yeah, this is
And like
his.
his fourth English language one, maybe
Yeah,
third. But
right.
yeah, I think it's his sixth film.
Okay, so this is his sixth film, and it's basically a reimagining of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. The film follows Bella Baxter, who is the work of Godwin Baxter. And the movie basically is like a coming of age film for Bella as she kind of like comes to her own and kind of like comes into the world. And I'm going to be very honest. When I saw the trailer for this movie, of course, I had no idea what was going on. But then again, it's Yorgos Lanthimos, and I was like, "This is gonna be weird. This is gonna be
Yeah.
strange. This is gonna be a little, out of the box." Because that's what he does. That's his films. Like, I've watched
Hmm.
most of his movies, and I enjoy his work, so I know he's gonna like it. And I remember when like I went to go see it, the movie, in a movie theater. There were people walking out because I do think that some
Really?
people were only there for Emma Stone, and they don't, and they
And they
didn't
thought they were
know.
gonna go see like an Emma Stone like period drama or something.
And that's one thing that annoys me
Okay.
a little bit about. I don't know if this is new moviegoers, but there seems to be like this rise of moviegoers that watch movies but don't do any research beforehand. Like the people who didn't know that Wonka was a prequel, or people who didn't know that Mean Girls was going to be a musical, when it would take you 2 minutes to look that up and then find that out. So you go see Poor Things just because Emma Stone is there, but you don't want to like Google and maybe be like, oh, is this a director? What has he
Mm.
done before? That way I have
Right.
some idea of what I'm walking into. And like the trailer didn't give any information. And I didn't get any information for the trailer. But I
Right.
know Yorgos Lanthimos is a little freak. So I knew I wasn't going to go see a normal movie.
There may have also been some people walking out because there is a lot of sex in it, and
Yeah,
that was one of the things that a lot of people had a lot of objections to.
oh
I
yeah,
personally did not
broadly.
have an issue with it, but I understand the people having issues. But I could see like if you thought you were going to see an Emma Stone period pick
Uh
with
huh.
like really whimsical costuming
Mm.
and she's fucking a lot. Like you could be like, maybe this isn't for me. I don't think I ever have walked out of a movie. That feels a little pointed, a little weird, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I could see people maybe leaving because of that too.
Yeah. What were your initial thoughts when you went to see Poor Things?
I absolutely loved Poor Things. I am a Yorgos stan. And I actually think I in preparation for this I rewatched The Lobster as well. And I actually think Poor Things isn't even as weird as The Lobster. That is a weird movie. But it's like obviously like visually probably his most out there film. It's I don't know what the design was based on, but it seems like it's pulling a lot from the Spanish artist Gaudi.
Mm.
Like everything kind of a little bit melting, and the buildings kind of look like his architectural designs in Spain. So everything looks weird, but it is like a pretty standard Odyssey and like
Mm-hmm.
coming of age structurally. I fucking loved it.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that it was okay. Let's explore what a Frankenstein film would be if Frankenstein was a woman, and then
Mm-hmm.
obviously like immediately the first thing that comes up is like all of the men around her are going to sexualize and try to possess this woman who has no kind of like uh concept of the world, which like this the second that occurred to me like early in the film, um uh when I think the character is
Yeah.
Max Candles is
Max.
introduced, and he says what a pretty arsler. I was like, oh now I'm stressed out. This whole movie is going to be men trying to take advantage of this woman,
Yeah.
which it is, but I found the execution of it very satisfying. It is what we're going to talk about today. It is kind of a not a subversion, I would think, but like a deeper exploration of the like born sexy yesterday trope. And I think it looks at that trope in a way that centers her. The thing that like I think defines that trope very often, born sexy yesterday, is when there is a woman in an adult woman's body and she has a childlike brain, usually because she's like an alien or a mermaid or whatever. So she doesn't know the world, and like a man can come along and like help her discover the world, and because he's like such a good man and the first man she meets in this new world, like she falls in love with him and blah 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 blah. Max Candles, I think, is supposed to be like the insert of like that character in this. And I love that he doesn't like her actualization, her self-actualization is all self-guided. Like she goes out into the world, she goes on an odyssey. She chooses she makes every choice for herself. And actually my only like kind of like disappointment with the film was the fact that like Max's character still kind of like stays with her, and they're like very good friends at the end, because I was like, I want all these men out of her life. But I really really enjoyed it. I understand some of the people who are put off by it, because like a big part of her journey of self-actualization, like one of the first things she discovers is like her body and like the and sexual desire, and she having no concept of the world, like goes out and seeks that, and so she has a lot of sex with a lot of different people, and for a while she works as a sex worker. And I know why that was off-putting to a lot of people. I think in some ways it's supposed to be somewhat off-putting, and in others it's supposed to be like I don't know, like I feel like I was really refreshed by this, like this character who like sought sexual release like on her own terms, for the joy of like of experiencing like pleasure. Like I personally liked it. I fucking loved this film.
Because she started like exploring that through her own agency rather than
Yes,
being like forced upon her.
she was very much in control. And the Duncan Wedderburn character goes insane because she spends the movie exercising her own agency and doing as she likes, and not playing the role of the fallen woman, the role of the woman who's in love with him, the role of the dutiful, not adhering to the expected script.
Not being submissive.
And he becomes like an avatar for that part of the patriarchy that like falls apart the second you don't agree to its rules. And I loved it.
I think that I saw a lot of that sentiment around the film, and I saw a lot of like my mutuals on TikTok and on Twitter praise the film highly. And a lot of people said that this was like almost the movie for people who liked weird Barbie. So I kind of went in with that in mind. And me personally, I always do enjoy coming of age movies. And because I already like Emma Stone and I already love Yorgos Lanthimos, I figured like when I go into this film, I'm going to enjoy it. And to my surprise, I got through the movie, and I think I got to the part where um, Bella meets Gerard Carmichael's character, and that's when I get to the point where like I don't know if I'm enjoying this movie, you know,
Mm.
because for me, one thing that I find that happens a lot with coming of age films for young women is that they come to the actualization of their womanhood through sex. And it's not that that is a bad thing. I just feel like it's something that is utilized a bit too much, I guess I should say. And for me, like to see like that this is a Yorgos Lanthimos film, this is a female led character, and he's done something like this before with like The Lobster and also The Favorite as well. So it's not out of the realm of his filmography. But I think that for me personally, I was looking for something else in the movie and I did not get that. And
Mhm.
I do find it derivative in the path of womanhood and actualization and a woman coming into her own that she must not rely on her sexuality, but like sexuality is such a big part of it that her like discovering herself and her masturbating is what she feels like a woman, you know. And I also had this critique with Rami season 1 because in Rami it follows his life. It's kind of like a mirror of Rami Youssef's life as like a Muslim
Mhm.
American. And there are 2 episodes in season 1 that focus on the actress who plays his sister and the actress who plays his mom. And both of those episodes, like his sister likes a white guy and wants to sleep with him. And his mom has a crush on somebody and wants to sleep with that man. And when she doesn't get to, she just sleeps with her husband. And I found it annoying that like, why is it that the only episodes you have is centered around these female characters in your show? The only desire they have is sex, you know, and they don't have
Mm.
any other desires outside of that. Like your sister is in medical school. We can't talk about her ambitions. Like that's your mom. And like, it's not weird for moms to want to have sex. They want to have sex. That's fine. But why is it that your female character you only put her in a situation where like she is vying for that desire and not something else? So I think that's something that like I thought about when I was watching the film, and I think I was trying to have an open mind, you know, while watching the movie and be like, it's okay, it's
Mhm.
fine, just like try and see it from a different perspective. Like don't try to see it from your own experience only. But as someone who was like raised, I guess, very prudish, you know, and raised religious, um, to have to like watch films to understand certain parts of yourself, and a lot of films around coming of age for women do tend around sex and relationship and like romance. And as someone who is not like a huge participant in those kind of things, it's hard to find
Mhm.
things that you can relate to. So when Weird Barbie movie came out, I'm like, okay, maybe she's a little quirky. Maybe she's like into like weird stuff. And like, I love that she loved reading. I love that she was introduced into socialism and Marxism. Like, that's interesting.
Mhm.
That's really cool. It's amazing. But it got to the point near the end of the film where, you know, um, Mark Ruffalo's character, Wetterberg, and Bella, they've lost all their money and she has to figure out a way to find more money. And she goes to the option of like the brothel. And
Mhm.
I'm watching the movie, I'm like, doesn't she have a stack from her dad? And in my head, I'm thinking, like, okay, I understand this is an exploration of yourself and womanhood and sexuality. You want to explore sex and like what is it like having sex with different men and like what they desire, what they look like, and like it's looking at that as experiment. But also in my head, I'm like, a lot of women turn to sex work when they have nowhere else to go. You obviously have the option of using the money that your father lent to you, but because Wetterberg took that money from her and basically ran off, she has no other option but to go to this brothel. And I understand, like, in the brothel, she also learns about, like, um, femininity and, like, presenting yourself and being a woman and, like, all those things. And that's where she meets one of my favorite characters in the movie who teaches her about socialism. And I think that's really great. And I was just watching the movie and I was just like, there was a different path that we could have gone down for her at this point in the film. And I felt like her exploring her sexuality as a way of her learning more about what it's like to be a woman, I felt like that was something that is done a lot. And I also feel like men, when they write stories about women and it's like a coming of age film, a film about actualization, they always turn to that because men can don't I don't know how else to say this. Men don't understand women except the fact that women want to have sex, because men want to have sex too, and they don't know what else women want. And if women want to have
Right.
sex and men want to have sex, then let's just explore sex, because sex is easy, and it sells. And I was trying to think, like, maybe this isn't what I'm seeing. But then I did watch a couple other TikToks and I saw that other people were seeing the same thing. And I was like, okay, thank God. I'm not crazy. I'm not a prude. That's
Yeah,
just
that
what
was a
I
very
saw.
common it was a very common criticism. And I totally get that.
Yeah.
I will say, like, I don't um having kind of like gone back and watched it again, the sex the sex is the shiny thing that gets her to leave the house and begin on her journey. She, of course, she has a lot more sex as she goes. And again, like, I get how, like, that many sex scenes in general can just be off-putting to some people, and people will be like, it's not my thing. I don't want to see Emma Stone's tits that many times, no matter how pretty she is, you know?
Yeah.
Totally get that. That is a taste thing. I do think sex is like the shiny thing that makes her leave her sex and mystery. She like wants to uh she wanted to see the world anyway. Duncan Wetterberg is offering her both of those things. He's like,
Mm-hmm.
I'll fuck you and I'll take you somewhere. And she's like, all right, this is like the shiny thing that's going to get me outside. Her self-actualization really starts to begin on the boat when
Mm.
she starts to read and she discovers her mind and ideas. Like,
Yeah.
she has, and she discovers that her passion for ideas is much is much stronger than her passion for sex. The There's a lot of needles that are I think very finely like threaded. Other people might disagree with me. One of those needles is Emma Stone's acting, because I personally, I mean, I don't suffer from any cognitive disabilities, but I think she managed to do the baby to adult like growth in a way that didn't really come across as like, offensive.
Yeah.
I think other like if anybody watching this is like part of the community and has like cognitive disabilities and disagrees with me, please sound off and tell me I'm wrong. But
Uh-huh.
it felt to me like she had her work cut out for her, and I think she threaded that needle quite well. I honestly think the her Bella's entry into sex work is another area, because we've actually seen that scene so many times. The one where like the woman becomes a sex worker because she has to,
Yeah.
and she that first encounter, she's crying, and it's unbearable, and we as the audience are meant to weep for her, and then we get to see the montage of her having sex, and we get to see her slowly die inside, and I'm so fucking tired of that. What they do is subvert that entirely. The first sexual encounter she has, because she's like, wait, I can have sex and I can make money, cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then he thrusts 3 times, comes, and she has to stifle a laugh because she's like, that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And then she goes and tells Duncan Wetterberg, like, I stifled a laugh because it was so bad, so I
Yeah.
guess you're right, you are really good at sex. And then and then we get to see the montage of working as a sex worker, and the experiences are all over the place. Like, some of
Mm-hmm.
them are not great, but she never like, it never feels coerced. It feels like a job, which
Mm-hmm.
I think is what the movie, specifically when she says the line, like, we are the means of our own means of production. The movie is using sex work like to be like, hey, this is just another way of like selling your body for like, we're all selling our bodies as labor, um so it's just a job. And I like that it shows like the joys, and also the kind of like boredom and the negotiations for higher wages that come with that, within the lens of like sex work. I like, for a movie that I like, immediately like my asshole clenched, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch a whole bunch of men try to take advantage of this woman for
Mm-hmm.
2 hours. I was really refreshed by like how not in danger I felt she was for
Mm-hmm.
that entire time, like
Yeah.
how capable I felt she was, and like how again, I was stressed out the first time I saw it, the second
Mm-hmm.
time not so much. But yeah, I would like I found that the movie very often approached these like very familiar tropes,
Mm-hmm.
and like some of them subverted, and then some of them maybe just like came at from like a different angle and
Right.
delved deeper in a way that I found was satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I understand why it's like not for I understand why every Yorgos Lanthimos movie is not for everyone, but
Yeah.
I understand why this one in particular sparked some discourse. You know?
Yeah. I did want to say, Toinette, who was the, I guess, the prostitute that Bella became friends with, who's played by Susie
Mhm.
Bemba. I did like her character a lot, and I found her interesting. And I do want to agree with you when you say that, like, you kind of held your breath because you didn't want a full movie of like a woman being taken advantage of by men.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that I was worried about when she got to the brothel. Because, like you
Mhm.
said before, a lot of times when women have, when there's a scene in a movie where a woman has to resort to sex work in order to support herself, oftentimes she's crying and she's sad because she is
It's
afraid of
trauma
being taken
porn.
advantage of. Yeah. And
It's trauma porn and porn.
yes, it is. And there have been scenes where a woman is a sex worker in a movie and she is taken advantage of because, that does happen, unfortunately. And I remember watching the movie and I was worried that that would happen as well. And in my mind, it didn't happen and I was relieved, but I also thought about how, like, that does happen to people who are sex workers. And I think that's another thing
Mhm.
that kind of like annoy me a little bit because like I don't want to see anybody get assaulted on screen. That's something I'm glad that is kind of gone away in like the most recent years because there has been a conversation about like sex and like intimacy coordinators and like I know Jennifer Aniston once said that she didn't need an intimacy coordinator when she did like her sex scene with John Hamm in the morning show. Like, girl, good for you. I guess you're a big girl, but like those things, those kind of people are necessary on set when you're doing these
Right.
kind of scenes. And I'm glad
Mhm.
because Emma Stone made it clear that like a lot of the things that happen in the movie with sex scenes and stuff like that, she had control over it as an actress, which I'm
Right.
very, very glad. And she deserves it because she is a very stellar actress and she is a very intelligent woman and she like deserves to have that kind of control on set when she's doing
Mhm.
these kind of scenes, especially if you're in like a 40-inch middle part bust down. Like, girl, you need a little bit of
I
help,
know.
But I wanted to say that like I I guess like when I finished watching the movie, I was kind of battling with myself like you don't want her to get assaulted on screen, obviously, and because that's something that happens to people in real life, I was kind of taken aback by it. So I was trying to like unpack that in my mind. And another thing that I remembered that you mentioned, I don't know if you mentioned this, but this just unlocked something in me was that when Susie Bemba and Gerard Carmichael's characters come on screen, they are kind of like the catalyst in a way of opening Bella's eyes to the world.
Yeah.
And obviously, because she lived with Godwin Baxter, and he taught her some things about anti-capitalism and that like but there's a difference between learning about it in a book and seeing something with your eyes and then
Mhm.
understanding it more clearly. So when she was in, I believe, Alexandria, and she saw like the slaves in the bottom of the pit, and she saw that the stairs were
Mhm.
like
And the
ripped.
bodies.
Yeah, and the stairs were ripped out, so they can't climb up to the top with the other people, and they couldn't like escape or revolt. She was like shocked and taken aback by it, and Carmichael, his character is like, well, this is how the world works. This is how these things happen. Like, this is how things move within the world. And Toinette in the movie, Susie Bamba's character is teaching her about Marxism and socialism, and teaching her like how to like understand what's going on in the world. And she's utilizing her own intelligence with Toinette to like come to terms with how the world is. And I did find that interesting because it does subvert the boring sexy yesterday character, and it does help her become more adult and does help her to like understand more about the world. But I also cannot ignore the fact that like the only two black characters in the movie are, are the people that like help her realize like the world is bad. Like
Right.
we know this personally from firsthand experience. You know what I
Right.
mean? And they're also like just they're only there for that purpose and then they're
Hmm.
gone. Like Toinette has like maybe not that many lines. And I know she's a side character. She doesn't take
Yeah.
over the film.
I
But
really wish she
like
had more to do.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that was another thing that I found a little annoying because Yorgos Lanthimos does not have he doesn't have that much diversity in his movies and like
Mm-mm.
it's fine, you know, Christopher Nolan, Yorgos Lanthimos, Sofia Coppola, like it's fine, girl. Y'all cast who you want to cast in your movies. I'll watch them anyways. But you you only have these black characters in here as like catalyst for your main character to understand things. It's like, okay, cool. Good to know.
Right.
Yeah.
And Carmichael's character, I forget the character's name now.
I did too.
Yeah, he's also like it is notable that he's like um one of the only men in the film that doesn't take like any kind of a sexual interest in her.
Mm-hmm.
Um it and like just casting a black man for that role does feel a little bit pointed. I don't know, like it's kind of like quietly implied that maybe he's gay.
And
I,
Carmichael
or at least
is
that's how I read it.
Carmichael is gay, like in
Yeah,
real life. I feel like I'm glad that
I
he
think the
didn't actually go.
character is meant to be.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad that he didn't go after her sexually, because in my mind I'm like,
Yeah,
she's already dealing with Duncan. She doesn't need some guy who teaches her like the ways of the world and then wants to sleep with her. Like,
yeah.
please pick a struggle.
It is nice that like I mean the characters that really open her mind and begin her journey towards self-actualization don't have any sexual interest in her.
Mm-hmm.
Um be, because they are just interested in her as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Um I think that is wonderful, but it is like hey guys, like you do only have like two black people in this film in very small roles and like
Mm-hmm.
one of them is the sexless man and it's I don't know, I guess that's a subversion of like men, like black men are often very hypersexualized in
Mm-hmm.
films, but I don't know.
I just found it to be not the magical Negro, so to speak, but there's always
Yeah,
like, and
adjacent.
yeah, like it's still like the black character teaching the white character the ways of the world because they do not know that
Right.
themselves. And like someone who has the lived experience of like how the world is terrible has to open your eyes to that, and then they suddenly get like a god complex behind it. Like she gave that money to the sailors to give to the people and said they took that for themselves. And in my head, I'm
Hmm.
like, girl, they were not going to give them money away. But she doesn't know that because she's still
No.
coming into her own. We can't judge her, Monica. She's still learning, you know?
Which was a very funny bit. Like her giving like this huge wad to the sailors at the front, at the like gangway and being like, "Can you give
Yes.
this to the poor?" It was very fun and very
Yeah.
funny when she told Duncan Wedderburg. Also, like Mark Ruffalo,
Oh my
performance of the year.
gosh. Mark Ruffalo, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit jealous. Like, Emma Stone, how dare you date Andrew Garfield and you get to do this with Mark Ruffalo? How does it feel to live my dream?
No one has ever had more fun than Mark Ruffalo in this movie. Like you can tell that he's just like living playing this character.
He's like, they don't let me do this in the Marvel universe. This is great.
Yeah.
I love this.
It was truly like career highlight performance.
Yes.
Hilarious. Like he absolutely earned that nomination.
And
Yeah.
I do think that like it's interesting to talk about the born sexy yesterday trope alongside this movie because
Hmm.
when I started watching the film, and like this girl was acting like a child, and when Max comes in, he's like automatically taken aback by her, and immediately I'm like,
Yeah.
mm-mm. I was like, no, 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 no. I saw the pop culture detective video. I know what this is. I know
Yeah.
what you are, sir.
And it would be his character solely teaching her how to live in the world and then they get married at the end if this is like the typical execution of this trope.
Yeah. I do think when Mark Ruffalo's character comes into play and he's like offering to take her around the world, and she is like, She is like, Godwin, I don't care what you have to say, bro. I'm going to Lisbon, man. I'm
Mm-hmm.
packing my bags. We're on the plane. We're going, you know? And I think that was another step where I'm like, this feels like a Born Sexy Yesterday character. And for those who don't know what Born Sexy Yesterday is, essentially this is a character trope that is played through for a lot of like science fiction media. And basically, a character who classifies as this, they have the mind of a naive yet highly skilled child, but in the body of a mature, sexualized woman. And she also serves as a love interest, usually for the hero or the protagonist. And they're naive and like weirdly wise, so they understand things and they're smart, but when it comes to like relationships and like sex and those kind of things, they don't know anything about it. So when there is a man introduced into her life, the first man, she's never known another man, she automatically thinks this is the smartest, most amazing guy ever because he's basically the default guy and she has no other reference to any other man. And this obviously is like a fetishization and a huge power imbalance, you know, for like
Mm-hmm.
this guy who is more experienced and probably not smarter than this woman, but he knows more about certain things than she does, and she is so inexperienced, and it's very much like the teacher student dynamic between the two of them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a male power fantasy.
Yes, it is.
And I feel like Poor Things consistently introduces the building blocks of that male power fantasy and then refuses to give any of the men any power.
Mm.
They try to assert their power. And I do think like that's why it was like satisfying and stressful for me to watch. Um, because we keep being presented with these very familiar situations and dynamics, and then the satisfying part for me was like Bella's responses to those.
Mm-hmm. I think that with Max, not Max, but Wedderburn, he was obviously a bit excited to have Bella in
Mm-hmm.
Lisbon because he wants like a sexual plaything that isn't going to talk back to him and isn't going to like question him, which is, excuse me, a reason why a lot of older men date younger women because younger women aren't going to
Mm-hmm.
ask too many questions. They're happy to be with him. He's an older guy. He's going to pay for
Easier to
things.
control.
Yeah, he's easier to control, and like that's why older men do not date women their own age because women their own age would peep game so quickly with that guy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's easier to date someone who's a little bit younger. And one thing that he didn't take into account is like, yes, Bella is a bit naive, and yes, she is there for sexual pleasure, but also like because she has the mind of a child, like kids get bored so easily. And when she starts wandering throughout the town, I'm like, I hope nobody snatches this girl up. But it's also very funny. Like, she is fully just like, I'm bored in this room. There are no toys to play with. I'm going outside.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, that's what a toddler
Yeah.
would do. That's what they would do. Absolutely. And
Yeah,
like I
and
mentioned,
she's so interesting because she's not only the mind of a child, but the
mm-hmm,
mind of a child who was raised unconventionally
mm-hmm,
by a genius who knows that she's actually an adult and will be progressing. So like unlike an actual child, uh she still hasn't been conditioned to just do what she's told,
mm-hmm,
you know? Because like the way she's been brought yes, like they kind of established that um Godwin, God as they call him, who
mm-hmm,
like tries to keep her in line somewhat by telling her not to break things, but he's got limited control there, and he exerts his relationship dynamic with her is very strange, but he like exerts limited control because I think he also understands that he that she will be an adult woman soon, unlike, you know, an actual parent child dynamic. So it's yeah, her resistance uh to just doing what she's told because a man told her to is unique, and
mm-hmm,
it's so fun.
mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that with the process of her figuring out what she is, I found that
Mm.
to be interesting because, of course, we as the audience have to discover that as well. And I kind of started piecing it together when he started hinting at it, or we started like unraveling it. And it was obviously Max Candles who wanted to like let the cat out of the bag because he's trying to like take Bella home with him, you know.
Hmm.
And I feel like in learning that, it was so strange because like imagine learning that you were a person before you were you, and now
Right.
like we're here. And I found that to be so cool. It's such a really interesting part of the Frankenstein story, you know.
Hmm.
And I also, one thing
Yeah.
I also loved is like Yorgos Lanthimos is not scared to show you, uh he's not afraid to show the audience, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like he will show the audience everything. And this being a science fiction movie where Godwin likes to experiment on certain things or certain people, we're seeing a lot in this film.
Yeah.
Like we're seeing a lot in this movie, and I think that could have been another thing that put people off. But because Bella is so used to seeing like things that are uncomfortable, she
Mm.
could more easily adapt to the things around her, and that's why sex to
Right.
her wasn't so weird because it was like, I mean, my father, God, he does like different things to like different animals. We have like a dog with a chicken head and like a
Yeah.
pig with like a
Like
tail,
a
you
pug
know.
face. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like she, for her to like explore her sexuality wasn't out of bounds. So I feel like the gory stuff wasn't as weird to her. So when she takes the peach and essentially shoves it in her hoo-ha, it's like
Yeah.
this is nothing.
It's an experiment.
Yeah, it's experiment and
She was
I'm
raised
doing it on
to
myself.
experiment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when she decides to go to Lisbon with Mark Ruffalo's character, it's like this is a journey of discovery. I no
Hmm.
longer have to be in the lab to see my father experiment on animals. I no longer have to see him try and turn different things into like different living creatures. I can go out into a new environment and see how I react to it and see how I
Hmm.
experience this, which of course is like very obviously very reminiscent of like the coming of age story, like taking on a journey and a new discovery.
Right.
Preferably not with an older man, but you know, girl, you do you. You
Yeah.
know,
Again, she always had control and agency in that relationship at the very least.
at the very
Um
least, because that man was trying to
and like
silence her at dinner, and I was dying. Like she was literally like, "I'm gonna punch that baby in the face." I'm like, "Okay, we can do that.
okay.
We can do that. Yeah, sure. Okay."
I think what you said about like discovering the Frankenstein's monster discovering that they used to have a life before they had a life, and like that discovery of like, oh, I am a monster, was uh, especially like poignant in this film because she discovers that actually who she was before was a monster. Like she
Mm-hmm.
like through the context clues, like with the stories that her like abusive ex-husband told her, like she was like, oh, I wasn't a very nice person, was I?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that um yeah, I think that was poignant, that she discovers that the monsters who used to live in her,
Mm-hmm.
and now she gets to be who she wants to be. Now
Mm-hmm.
she's been given like she's given a blank slate, and she gets to choose and forge her own path and become a person that wants to choose to continue being in this world and interacting with her fellow human beings.
Yeah, and I remember when Christopher Abbott first enters the film, which I was like shocked by because I
Mhm.
personally love Christopher Abbott. Think he's a great actor. He is so fine as a man, and when he enters in as like her terrible ex husband, I'm like, dang it,
He was
y'all.
scary.
He
That was
was.
a scary character.
Yes, he was. And honestly, I was kind of here for it. And when he is talking about how he is literally going to like I'm going to keep you in this castle and you're not going to leave if you disobey me. I'm going to show you what I'm really about. I'm going to show you what's up. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, I know that Bella said yes to go with this guy to discover who she was
Mm-hmm.
before. And this is part of her journey, her discovery. She's a scientist. She has to understand everything from
Yeah.
different angles. Yet again, the voice in my head is like, girl, tell that man to get off your property, marry Max, and leave that behind. We don't need that. That man is trouble. Like, you see that man coming in here with the uniform. That's not somebody you need to go with. Like, no, 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 no. But again, she has to go there and do that so she can discover that about
Right.
herself. And when she discovers like who she used to be was a terrible, horrible person, I was like, dang, that has to be hard to like come to the
Yeah.
realization of. And you're essentially this person's child
Yeah,
in
you
their
you are your
body.
own mother is what, like, that used to be you, and that also used to be your mother.
Very reminiscent of
Um,
Mary Shelley
yeah.
as well, as she does not have a mother.
Mm.
Yeah, very reminiscent of her story as well, which is interesting.
And again, the Frankenstein story, like,
Yes.
um, who was really the monster?
Yeah, yeah, that is very true indeed. I will be honest and say that um, I found like Christopher Abbott's character to be quite frightening, and I do remember being in the movie theater when he walked in because I'm thinking like, okay, the movie's about to be over, and he walks in, I'm like, this movie is long. Dang,
Yeah,
like
it's a long movie,
this is going on for a while.
although not as long as it feels.
To me, I think it was as long as it feels because I think I was getting to the point where I was like, I need everybody to wrap this up so I can go
Right.
home. Because
I
by the
think,
time we got to the brothel, I
yeah,
was like, I got it, I
it
got
is
it.
a long movie. I feel like it felt like an even longer movie, which again, I loved it. I loved
Mm-hmm.
it, but I was like, I have to go lay down after this. Like, there's
Yeah.
a lot happened. A lot happens. It is an odyssey.
Mm-hmm. That is, yes, it is an odyssey, and I think one thing I always appreciate about Yorgos Lanthimos is that his films will always be something that you have to like sit with and you have to
Mm,
take the time to really understand, to take apart, to analyze. And it's not simply that like this is like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. It's not that this is like the modern Prometheus. It's not that this is like a coming of age film. It's not just that, like this is born sexy yesterday. Like there are so many different layers to this film.
yeah.
And when I took the time to do the research after watching a movie, because that's what I do every time I watch a movie, like
Hmm.
immediately after, I'm like, girl, it's time to look up immaculate ending explained because I don't know what happened. I need to know. Like that's what I did recently. I went to
Yeah.
see Immaculate and I was like, what was Sydney Sweeney doing in this movie? Like what's going on? Because I need to understand it at every single level
Right.
that this movie has happened. I did it with the Mean Girls movie too because I was like, I've seen the original one. I saw the musical and now I've seen this movie, and there's still some things I need to piece together. Like I know who Renee Rapp is, but like let's go a little bit deeper. Let's dig into it. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like I have to become an expert, and I love that about Yorgos Lanthimos because he
Hmm.
makes these films that are so intricately done, and there's so much
Yeah.
symbolism in the film, and he is like, I'm going to give you this masterpiece, and you as the audience, I trust that you will take the time to see what I'm trying to tell you. And I appreciate that
Yeah.
about him as a filmmaker.
Same. They're
Mm-hmm.
so rich,
Yes.
and you can watch them with so many different like lenses and
Mm-hmm.
from so many different perspectives. And I really think that that gives you like a different viewing experience every time you go back and watch them.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I rewatched The Lobster in preparation for this, and like, um, it yesterday while watching it, I was like, just watching it, like, I guess is like a queer allegory. And I'd forgotten, because it'd been so long since I'd seen it, I'd forgotten that the ending is like very inconclusive. Like you're just
Yeah.
kind of left to make up your own, to wonder like how it ends.
Yeah.
And
Obviously.
And I love shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
I know some people
Absolutely.
find stuff like that really frustrating, but I
Yeah.
actually uh I love that, like, depending on my mood, I will decide like whether or not he went into the bathroom and blinded himself or whether he chickened out, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah. And I think like one point I do want to make is that as someone who is an enjoyer of film, but also someone who's like a black woman, a lot of times like this is the reason why I actually started this podcast, because
mhm,
I do listen to a lot of other movie review podcasts, and I do watch a lot of
right.
YouTubers like yourself who make video essays, and I always enjoy seeing other people's perspectives, but I always felt like I needed to put my perspective out there because I
Totally.
know that like with the people on TikTok that praise this film, that's I went with their like that thought in mind of like there are these people that I respect and I like Kit Laser, Joe Cinema, like those kind of TikTokers, and I was like, if they like it, then I might like it too because I like a lot of things that they like, and I went
Mhm,
in not feeling satisfied, and I have to
right.
remember sometimes that like those are two like cisgender white men. I am a black woman. So obviously as a
Mhm,
woman seeing a coming of age film centered around women, I'm gonna have a different opinion than they will because they maybe find
totally.
a perspective closer to Yorgos Lanthimos. And something that
Mhm,
I also notice in movies that are made by white directors, like I am someone who's like, if you want to diversify your cast, that's fine, but always be mindful of it. And if there's a director who
right.
doesn't usually diversify their cast, like Christopher Nolan, it's like, that's okay. Like Oppenheimer not having black people, that's fine, y'all. It's Oppenheimer. It's okay. You know, it's not necessary to the story. And I remember watching Poor Things and seeing like two black characters in my mind. I'm like, nobody that I follow on TikTok mentioned this, but that's
Right.
because most of the people that I follow who review movies are white men, and they are
Mhm,
usually a little bit more popular. And all the women of color that I do follow didn't watch this movie because they didn't feel like they needed to or wanted to. And
right.
I was just kind of like, yeah, eventually I'm gonna have to talk about Poor Things because I need to bring this up because this is interesting. And it reminds me of
Mhm,
how Sofia Coppola in Beguiled, she didn't include the black slave character, the woman, who was in the original Beguiled film because she felt like she didn't have the means to write that character in. And in my head, I'm like, okay, understood. Also, could be that you don't want these white women in your movie to be seen as slave owners, even though this film is set in the Confederacy. But, you know,
right.
that's
And
neither
it's
here
also
nor
like,
there.
if you don't feel competent to write that character in, then and you're adapting this film,
Yeah.
then why don't you have a black co-writer?
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's as simple as that. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I yeah.
That's something I always think about when I watch films. And I was watching Poor Things because I was like, this movie is something that a lot of people loved and admired, and I
Mhm.
didn't like it. And sometimes when I watch films other people love and I don't like, I can't help but think, is there something in me that's lacking? Like, I always want to improve and I always want to be better because this is my podcast and I put a lot of pride
Right.
into it. But upon like watching more videos about Poor Things, I realized that like these people just don't have your perspective. And that's
Mhm.
all there is. Like they just don't see what you see. Like some people are gonna see Gerard Carmichael and be like, "Oh my God, Gerard Carmichael is in a Yorgos Lanthimos movie. That's so cool!" And they don't see that like his character is not really like a full character, so to speak. He's just like kind of there assisting the white character. And
Mhm.
not everybody will pick that up on the first glance. And as someone who watches media with people that look like her and recognize these same tropes in those same characters repeated over and over
Right.
again in media, I cannot help but see, okay,
It
yeah,
sticks out to you.
yeah,
Yeah.
got it.
100%.
Yeah,
And I mean, like, I think anyone can dislike any movie for whatever reason.
yeah.
But again, like, this film, I can totally understand why it's like Marmite. Like, you either love it or you hate it. Because it's and I think that, I mean, I think that's the case for all Yorgos Lanthimos films, period. And I think that's what makes him brilliant, like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, it's not what makes him brilliant, but that's like one of the marks of his brilliance is he is making like a very specific thing for a specific audience. Um, and isn't trying to create some kind of like, he's creating art. He's not making like bland entertainment that is going to appeal to the most number of people.
Yeah.
So and yeah, like part of the reason when we met up before this that I wanted to talk about this was because you and I had like very different perspectives on the film. Um and I think that makes for a more interesting conversation. And I think what makes this like this film in particular, like the reactions to it, I do think like with some films where like discourse is started about like whether it's good or bad, there's there are opinions that are like more credible than others, you know? With this film, I really like I feel very strongly about it in a positive way. And I also think that the people who feel very negative, strong emotions about it, their opinion is like just as credible as and just as like of as like rooted in like understanding of storytelling and structure as mine. Like it's like it really is like Marmite.
Yeah. And
And I love that about it. I think it makes it more interesting.
yeah, you're right. It is good to have discourse, but always have like different perspectives in terms of like films and media. And I think
Mm-hmm.
after I watched Poor Things, I was kind of looking for other people who maybe held my same understanding of the film or like some kind of perspective. That way I was like, I'm not alone in this. But I kept seeing people who are like, just kind of like this like felt weirded out by the sex in the movie. And in my head I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well you haven't seen a Yorgos Lanthimos film because this isn't even like this is nothing. Like this may seem like a
It's not
lot,
even
but
freaky stuff. It's just a lot.
girl, you haven't seen Dogtooth, obviously. Like, come on now. But I think that I'm really glad that we were able to talk about Poor Things, and I'm glad that you mentioned Poor Things because it's always nice to talk to somebody who can see something, the same thing you've seen, and see it from a different lens. And
Right.
I do think that when you're talking about Bella and how she has like this agency and she's able to speak up for herself and take control in the film, you know, like with her relationship with Wedderburn, and then with like Max, I do see that as like a subversion of the Born Sexy Yesterday trope because
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes when that is in media, the woman never really finds any agency or really finds control. She's just kind of like stuck, you know. And
Yeah.
even though I don't usually enjoy coming of age films written by men where the character is a woman because like they center around sex, at least Yorgos Lanthimos has like the means and the wherewithal to understand that like this character is not going to stay in the childlike state. This is a coming of age
Mm-hmm.
film, so she will come of age into her adulthood, and we see that through the way she talks, the way she acts. Like you said, Emma Stone is an amazing actress, and the way she was able to kind of display like this childlike behavior, something similar to someone with like a cognitive disability, to now growing into like a mature adult who is able to communicate with others and advocate for herself, and how her clothing went from like very bright colored and puffy sleeves to like more darker clothes, something more mature, something more modern. It was wonderful to see that come to fruition in this
Mm-hmm.
film and to see the journey that Bella went on and how she like was something that was similar to a Born Sexy character with Max and Wedderburn, but eventually when she gets to Alexandria and tells Wedderburn to her face, this guy can't fuck. Like you really were like you were pretty good at the sack. And he's like, you fucked somebody else?
Yeah.
What?
It was amazing. The
Yeah.
way she just destroyed him
He was,
repeatedly in that film was like personally
oh
satisfying
my
to
god.
watch.
He was so distraught. He's like, I have no money, and now the only person I have with me, like, is gonna be a prostitute? Like,
I
man.
loved it. I loved it.
Bro,
And yeah,
slay.
like she chooses her own life at the end, and I find that
Yes.
very it was a perfect happy ending from my perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I
But
think
yeah, if
that,
she had been like a typical Born Sexy Yesterday, she would have like just fallen in love with the first man that she saw, and like
yes.
she would have reached Obviously there would have been like some character growth for conflict's sake, but
Mm-hmm.
she would have stayed with him. She would have stayed with Max the entire time. Um, and her journey would have been tied to his journey, where she was like, I'm gonna marry you, but like first I gotta go do some shit.
Yeah. Which a lot of men do not like, like they're
Mm.
not down for that. And I feel like Max was, when I first started watching the film, I was like, is he going to be the nice guy? Like, is he going to
Mm.
be the one who like pretends to be nice but is like deeply insecure? It doesn't have like a strong
I was
feminine
wondering
side
that
to
too.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and he was like, I mean, I guess if you have to, like, go ahead. I was like, you know what? Okay, let's see where this
Right.
goes. Let's see how this, let's see how this works. Yeah, you are right. Like the Born Sexy Yesterday trope is something that's like rooted in male fantasy, and it also just comes from like the fear of rejection, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't get rejected by
She's
a
never
woman.
met another man. She can't reject me. It's so funny when you actually point it out.
Mm-hmm. And Wedderburn, when he's like, she found another man. It's like, sorry, buddy. Sorry, buddy. It's just that's them's the breaks, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the way he's like, try not to fall in love with me. And she's like, okay.
Got it. Got it. Don't worry. Don't worry. I won't. I won't. Yeah. The trope is very nasty. It's a little gross, like because it hinges on
Yeah.
like patriarchal ideals of like virginity and femininity and
Mm-hmm.
womanhood, and you know, you can't do that reversed. Not always. Like if a
No.
woman starts dating a man and he is like inept, um, usually the guy becomes the butt of the joke, and to be honest, not a lot of women find it appealing to date younger men. There are cougars out there, of course, but like it's not
Yeah.
an overarching thing within women. A lot of
Yeah.
men desire to date younger women, and you see this in films, just in casting in general. Like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of older men get casted with younger actresses. Like if you look at Scarlett Johansson's filmography, the amount of time she's been casted as a love interest with an actor who is 20 years older than her.
Yeah. Literally old enough to be her dad.
Almost
Like,
every time,
and
girl.
that's like consistent for
Mm,
casting.
mm.
And yeah, like I'm trying to think of like a male version of Born Sexy Yesterday. I think like maybe the closest thing would be Big, but I can't even remember that movie entirely. I think
Yeah.
he gets turned into an adult, right? And then kind of dates a woman. And I remember that like being like, oh, that was weird, right? That was
Yeah.
gross.
I
Whereas like we just don't think of it as gross when it's like a woman with the mind of a child.
like I feel like of course you can bring up um when I was thinking about it, like what are some examples of this? My mind did go to the new movie coming out with Anne Hathaway, The Idea of You, where she dates a guy who's like a singer in a band, but he's just
Hmm.
younger than her. I don't think that he's like
A
inept in
child.
any way. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's not a child. Like it's Nicholas. I can't say his last name, but we all know him. He was in the Cinderella
Hmm.
movie. He was in Red, White, Royal Blue. He obviously is like playing like a 20-year-old. I don't know if he's in his 20s or
Okay.
not. Like the man probably is 30, but I don't know. But it's
So
just
she's
like
just a cougar.
she's just a cougar, really. He
Yeah.
obviously has some experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the examples of like a woman dating an adept man lessen in comparison to like a man dating an inept woman. You know,
Yeah.
like I
It's again, there's enough that we have a trope named for it. Born
yeah.
Sexy Yesterday.
Yeah, girl. And I'm glad that Yorgos Lanthimos, as talented of a writer and director as he is, saw Bella Baxter as a character and, wanted her to grow out of that trope and not stay
Hmm.
confined within it because nobody wants to see that, really, girl. Not in the year of our Lord 2024. Even though this movie came out
Yeah.
last year, but like, no one wants to see that, girl. You know what I mean? Like, not my taste, not your taste, you know?
Hmm.
And he does have another film coming out with Emma Stone, which I'm excited to see. And I love it when directors find like an actor that they love working with,
They're
and
like
they're like,
muse. Yeah.
Because for a while, I think it was Colin Farrell for Yorgos Lanthimos.
Hmm.
Yes. And now that's Emma Stone. I find that to be so refreshing. I don't know if Colin Farrell is going to be in this new movie. I think Jesse Plemons is in this film as well. Um,
Okay.
I don't remember the title, and I don't remember. I did watch the trailer for it, and the trailer gave me nothing, which I love. Don't give me anything. Make me watch the movie. That's what I want. Yeah.
Poor thing's the same. I was like, what the hell is going
What
on?
is
Well, I'm
this?
there. I'm gonna see it.
Why is Emma Stone in this phenomenal wig? Like, what's happening?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts about Poor Things? I guess like the Born Sexy Yesterday trope in regards to the film?
Um, I like so like tropes in general.
Mm-hmm.
I think very often, especially as like content creators who do like media criticism, um, uh, not us in specifically, but I mean like in general, um, we kind of talk about tropes in a way that is maybe like derogatory or negative, like, oh, this is a thing that you see a lot, therefore it's bad. And I don't agree with that. I think, very often tropes are because of genre conventions and that kind of thing. Some of them are problematic tropes, like Born Sexy Yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I like media that plays with tropes. I
Mm-hmm.
like media that is like, here is the convention, here is the expected. Now let's approach the expected from like a different way. And that's what I found refreshing about this film in particular. And that's what I hope talented filmmakers continue to do, is like, let's take the expected and find the unexpected in the expected.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. And me, myself, and I also agree that tropes aren't inherently a bad thing. Um, Tropes are just a form of categorization, really, when it comes to
Mhm.
like characters in media. And I'm glad that Bella Baxter, for me, she feels a lot like Clementine in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yeah.
A lot of people see her as like the manic pixie dream girl, which I formerly
Hmm.
characterized her as well. But one thing about
Yeah.
Clementine, she tells Jim Carrey's character in the movie, a lot of guys see me as like a way to fix their problems, and I'm not that. I'm not your remedy.
Hmm.
I'm a person. I'm a life. I'm like, I can't do that for you.
A
And
literal commentary on Manic Pixie Dream Girl. Like,
yep, exactly that. Exactly that. So with Bella Baxter now, like being in Poor Things and her subverting the poor and sexy yesterday trope, I do find her to be very refreshing. And
mm,
I'm glad that Yorgos Lanthimos made this film, because this is different from The Favorite, because I think that a lot of
very.
people, yeah, The Favorite, which I believe was a lot of people's first Yorgos Lanthimos film, because Emma Stone is in that film once again, and it
Hmm.
also has Olivia
Coleman. Yeah,
Coleman. I
and
was about
she
to say something else.
she won her Academy Award for that one. It was like very
Yes.
mainstream. I also think The Favorite is like a good entry point for Yorgos Lanthimos, just because it's like, I think it's the most like normal one.
Uh,
It's the least weird.
uh, yeah. The only weird thing that really happens in the movie, if I'm being honest, is when she's monologuing and she's jerking the guy off. For to my
Yeah.
knowledge, right now, I think that's the most weird thing that happens in the movie. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, tonally probably still strikes some people as weird, but
Yeah.
it's the most like straightforward one.
And it's also the one that did fall easily into the mainstream, because it is kind of like a typical comedy,
Yeah.
and it has queer relationships with people love to see in film and cinema. And when you have three very well respected actresses who are also very
Hmm.
talented in your film, people are going to watch it.
Yeah.
Absolutely
And
so.
it's wonderful, and their performances are wonderful. Like,
Hmm.
it's so great.
And I think a lot of people thought that was like a biopic, and I feel like it was supposed to be like something of not really a
Right.
biopic, but like a subversion
Yeah, no.
almost. Yeah.
Definitely still historical fiction,
Mm.
but yeah.
Yes. And I remember, like, I think, I'm pretty sure there were some people mentioning The Favorite when I walked into the movie theater. And I was just like, in my head, I'm like, I don't think this is going to be like The Favorite. Like,
No.
He's not a filmmaker who is going to make the same movie
Yeah.
more than once. He's definitely going to try
Mhm.
something else. Like, when you look at the difference between The Killing of the Sacred Deer and like The Lobster, girl, those are two different
Yeah.
movies.
If
Like,
you want to watch The Favorite again, go watch The Great on Hulu.
yes, absolutely.
Which is
I
the same
love
writer
that. Oh my
and is
gosh.
wonderful. Um,
I love that show. And the fact that Nicholas Hoult is in that movie and also in
yep.
the show.
Who I
He's
also love, I'm obsessed with. What an
Nicholas
amazing
Hoult.
actor.
You're a little weirdo. I see it in you. You can't hide it
Mm,
from me. You were in
I
Skins.
love him.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I actually am in the middle of the favorite season 2, I think. And like, I know I have to finish it, but I don't want to finish it because are there 30 seasons of the show or like I think
I I've seen all of it. I think there's two,
okay.
but maybe there will be a third. But to be fair, I saw them when it came out, so like it's been a long time since I've watched it.
To be honest, I think the show got canceled. So like that's also why I don't want to finish it because it's like I don't want it to be over because I
Right.
do like this show a lot. And also Elle Fanning is like she's eating it up.
Perfect.
She's doing so good in that show. Oh my gosh. But
I think
um
when it came out, one of the reviews was like, she's the new queen of dark comedy. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, she is. She's fucking funny.
yeah, girl. Yeah, girl, take that. Take that.
Yeah.
I remember it was Elle Fanning, also Dakota Fanning, and I don't remember the actress's name, but it was the actress who played Primrose when they were like there was a time where like they were all kind of like very popular in the
Hmm.
mainstream and I was like I genuinely like these actresses because they're doing big things, they're doing good things, and
Hmm.
now to see them in like different roles trying different things, it makes me happy because like I love
Yeah.
it when an actor decides to shake it up a little bit, try something new. And Emma
Yeah.
Stone, she's always been a comedy girl, always, but seeing her with Yorgos Lanthimos, I'm like, yeah, this is good for her,
Hmm.
this fits, you know also I would love to see Rachel Weisz in another Yorgos Lanthimos film because she also is like
Same. I love her. I'll watch her in anything.
have you seen Dead Ringers by any chance?
No,
mm.
I've heard that it's not good, but that she is. So I'll still watch it.
I actually I actually
Did
really
you like
like
it?
I did like Dead
Okay.
Ringers. That's so
Not from
crazy.
like not from like media critics, just from
uh
like general people. So, with a grain of salt.
I do have to say, Dead Ringers, for those who don't know, Dead Ringers, I'm talking about the Amazon Prime. It is a reboot or a reimagining of the 60s Cronenberg film with Jeremy Irons. And
Mm.
Rachel Weisz plays twins. And the show is about these twins who want to revolutionize how to give birth. And the show does not shy away from childbirth or the
Oh,
yeah, girl.
okay.
And let me tell you something, that's not even that's like the first episode when you
So
really
this is why
get
the people in my mummy memes group on Facebook didn't like it.
yep. Because if you've seen the original Cronenberg film, which I have, and oh, girl, that was a lot. You see the reimagining, they said, let's keep the Cronenberg elements in there.
Okay.
They absolutely did do that. So I'm just going to let you know right now. It is similar to Poor Things in a way where it's like they don't hold back from anything,
Right.
It's very good, I do have to say. It's actually like very strong. And it was a strong contender for the Emmys as well. Like a lot of people were surprised when it didn't
Okay.
get nominated because it does dive into the history of childbirth and
Mm.
pregnancy and labor, especially within the United States, like modern
Oh, cool.
day and like when it first started. Like you learn a lot about like how um what's the phrase for it? Someone who gives birth to babies. What's the doctor's
Oh,
name?
midwives, midwifery,
Midwives and also
doulas.
doulas. I'm trying to think of the wing. Like, what's the wing that people go to when they're pregnant?
Oh, OBGYNs,
Yes. When
obstetrics, gynecologists.
yes, when you learn about the history of gynecology through this show, let me tell you something. Everything is right and factual, and that's what I love about a show. Is when they take history and they're like,
Mm.
"Baby girl, it's in there." It's in there.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll have to watch it.
We did our research. Okay. That's what I love. And also Rachel Weisz, she always challenges herself, which I love. Like her
Yeah.
playing twins, I was like, that's it. Come
She's an
on.
artist. I love her.
Daniel Craig is so lucky.
I
God.
know.
Okay,
He
so
better appreciate her.
oh my gosh. Okay, so my thoughts on Poor Things, just to wrap it up. Um, Obviously, like I love Yorgos Lanthimos. I was surprised when I didn't walk out that theater loving this movie,
Right.
but I do still appreciate everything that Yorgos Lanthimos created, and I think
Hmm.
that Emma saying yes to this role and taking it was so great for her as an actor, because I love when actors take on roles that like are different from something they usually do, and it's a challenge. Like you can see this is
Yeah.
something they're taking on to kind of try something different and try something new, and I enjoy that. I like that, and I favor that with a lot of actors that I watch. I feel like Kristen Stewart did it recently with Spencer, because she usually
Hmm.
does do like she has stuck to indie films following Twilight, and her doing a biopic was really good, and I feel like in the way they did Spencer was really really well done. And
Hmm.
Kristen Stewart, I will always love her. And also her most recent film Love Lies Bleeding is so
I
good.
haven't seen it yet. I really need to see it. I
Girl,
can't
you
wait.
you gotta go. You
I
gotta
can't
go.
wait. It looks so good.
It is good, and it also I have to remind everybody this is an A24 film. Like there's
Right.
a certain point when you start watching the movie, and I'm like, you're like, what's happening? But you have to remember, this is an A24 film. Okay, things are not what they seem, but it doesn't mean that
Can't wait.
it just makes it better.
Yeah.
Um, but that's something that I love about Poor Things. Just seeing her go into this new foray into this kind of movie, because I'm sure a lot of people know Emma Stone from like Easy A and Andrew
Hmm.
Garfield's Spider-Man movies, and like the aforementioned The Favorite and other films like that. I'm glad that she is going to be in his next film. I think that's coming out this year, I'm pretty sure. And
Great.
I feel like Poor Things is definitely something that's similar to something that he's made, but definitely different, as it feels more ambitious. And oftentimes, when filmmakers create films that are something that's in the vein of what they've made before, but you can tell like it's of a bigger scale, and you can tell they're taking a chance or taking a risk with this film. I just want to be like, oh yeah, let's go for it. And like me not liking it, I
Yeah.
don't want to do that, because I feel like I'm a supporter, man. Like I'm on your side, I promise. But overall, I think that this is a really phenomenal film. Um,
Hmm.
it's definitely one of his more popular films that has
Right.
come out. Um, I will have to say that this is probably one of my lower ranked movies for him.
Hmm.
Before it was The Killing of the Sacred Deer, because even though I like the movie and I love Nicole Kidman, I at the same time was like, the suspense in here is not suspensing. Like it only really comes at the
Hmm.
end of the movie. But now I can thankfully put more things near that spot and give, Killing of the Sacred Deer a little more leg room, to survive in my ranking. But overall, Poor Things is a phenomenal feat. It is, I think, a worthy subversion of the Born Sexy Yesterday trope. And I do believe that Yorgos Lanthimos and all those who worked alongside him to create this film made another masterpiece that's going to live on in his filmography. And I'm
Hmm.
very excited to see his next movie and the next piece of work he's going to make with Emma Stone. And I think this is like very interesting. And I think there were a lot of interviews that she did where she was talking about how like the control of the film, it made me think like she could start producing. Like she could
Hmm.
start like,
Was she a producer on this film?
I'm not sure, but she may have been.
I
I wouldn't be
think
surprised if
she
she
was.
was.
I think she was. I could be wrong. IMDb. Emma Stone. Oh my God, I can't type because it's my camera. My computer's too far away from me.
No.
Emma Stone, producer. Let me see. Oh, I think she might have been.
Hmm.
I could be wrong. Let me look at Poor Things. Um, Production, box office, and more. Give me this shit. Oh my god. Why are you making me go? Come on, tell me who produced it. IMDb is terrible. Okay. Not cast. Crew. Yeah, she was one of the producers.
Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
So it was her, Andrew Lowe,
Mhm.
and uh Ildiko Kemeny is listed as a co-producer. Oh, and Kasia Malipen and David Minkowski are all co-producers. But the producers were Ed Geaney, Yorgos Lanthimos, Andrew Lowe, and Emma Stone.
Okay. I'm I'm glad that she has that credit to the movie. I'm glad that she was
Yeah.
able to be
So she was
involved.
very much in control,
Hmm. And you can tell
which is
in the
good.
film. You can tell
Hmm.
with her character and like how the story is done. And I think that it is a very interesting film about like self-realization and self-discovery. And obviously, this movie has not been done before. That's another thing I appreciate about
Hmm.
Yorgos Lanthimos. If there's one thing he's gonna be, it's original. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, taking a baby brain and
Unique.
putting in a female grown body, the body of the mother, like, ugh, the subversion, the layers you got peeled back, and also it being a reimagining of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Like he's a student, man.
Hmm.
He knows, which I love and I appreciate, and I think that if anybody, obviously, like you have a love or appreciation for Kate McKinnon's characterization as Weird Barbie, I do think that you will enjoy this film. I think that you'll like this movie. I think this is the movie for you, and I highly recommend you check it out. I think it's streaming on Hulu, so you guys could check it
Yes.
out there.
Hmm.
Even
So if
though,
you've got a Hulu subscription, you don't even have to pay for it.
yeah, even though I think Hulu and Disney are becoming one streaming
Oh,
service,
yeah.
which is
They're
weird.
either becoming one or there's like going to be a package. I've seen billboards with the two of them advertised.
I don't understand the merger at all. Like, I get that people don't have access to Hulu in the UK. So like maybe there's that like distribution rights,
Mm,
but also I don't I don't get it. Like I can't
right.
whatever, it's fine. But that was our analysis of Poor Things in comparison or in contrast with the Boring Sex Yesterday trope. So we're going to go ahead and end the podcast with our recommendations. So you guys, if there are any films or TV shows that you've watched recently that you want to recommend, feel free to leave it in the comments of our Instagram post if you'd like. Me personally, I don't know if I have any recommendations, but I have been watching the show Girls Five Eva on
I've
Netflix.
heard of that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say it's not bad. I do
Hmm.
feel like it is a Tina Fey joint, and you could tell that it is a Tina Fey show by watching it. Like the comedy is very much 30 Rock,
Hmm.
and it's giving very much older adult because a lot of their references they make, I don't get it. But it's
Right.
funny. It's enjoyable. It's an easy watch. Renee Ellis Goldsberry is, of course, in her element in this movie. And I also love Sarah Bareilles so much. And to see her be like a TV actress is interesting. But also, I feel like she's having fun because I've always loved her music. And I love Waitress. And I love seeing her sit on a shiny piano and write songs. And also Renee Ellis Goldsberry, you may know her from Hamilton or
Hmm.
Henrietta Leaks, I believe it was the HBO special that she did with Oprah Winfrey. And now to see her in like a comedy role, I feel like this is her bag. This is where she should stay. I feel like
Right.
this is like the perfect place for her. And Kenya Burris, if you're listening, she is the next lead for whatever project you're doing. I'm so serious. Like someone needs to pick that girl up. Um, yeah, but I think that the show was on Peacock before, and then it got picked up by Netflix so that they could do their third season. There have been a lot of people saying that like possibly the show coming to Netflix wasn't giving it the boost that it has for other shows or on other streaming services that have come to Netflix, like School Spirits or Insecure, Ballers, shows like that. But I'm enjoying it so far, I have to say. It's been a while since I've watched a show that allows me to turn my brain off because
Hmm.
I've been, I don't know if this is the right word, but subjecting myself to shows that make me think. You know, your girl hasn't gotten a break, and this is a welcome break, I will have to say. So that's a recommendation I have for you guys. Do you have any recommendations, Amanda?
Um, Two, just because we mentioned it so many times in this movie, go watch The Lobster.
Yes.
In this episode, rather, The
Yeah.
Lobster. Um, and I really, really, really want people to go watch I'm a Virgo on Amazon Prime.
Mm.
The It's a Riley show. It's one season. The marketing for this film has been terrible. Like
Mm.
I only knew about it because I follow Boots Riley on Twitter and he retweets stuff about it all the time.
Yeah.
There's like, and I live in Los Angeles, so
Mm.
I get like, every like billboard and thing like blasted at me at all the time. Like I've heard of most things, even though I'm not watching as much TV as I probably should. So I'm a Virgo. Nobody's watching it. It's on Amazon Prime. It's like the first season, the entire season, it's like 3 hours long because it's half-hour episodes. Um, and it's like a coming of age fantasy narrative that kind of turns into a send up of superhero films.
Mm.
And because it's Boots Riley, there's also like a lot of very explicit critique of capitalism and class and stuff. And it is wonderful. And I
Mm.
really, really want it to do well and get a second season. So everybody go watch it.
That is so interesting to me that there hasn't been that much promotion behind I'm a Virgo because Boots Riley is a pretty talented filmmaker. He made Sorry to Bother You,
Yeah.
which I think a lot of people did like. And also,
Mm-hmm.
I'm forgetting the lead actor's name, but I could see his face in my mind.
Licky
Um,
Fields from, right?
Not from Sorry to Bother You, but from I'm a Virgo.
Oh, he's yeah, the guy who was, oh, let me look it up.
I know that he was also
Gerald
in,
Jerome.
yes, Jarrell Jerome. He is a very talented actor.
Oh my God, he's wonderful.
He won an Emmy, I
When They See
believe.
Us,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
which,
If you have an Emmy winner
whew,
in a new show that you are making on your streaming service, why would you not promote it? Amazon.
I don't like, what are you doing, Amazon? Like, and he's also wonderful in this. He plays a giant in this.
Yeah.
Like a literal giant. He's like
Yeah.
13 feet tall or something. It's so good.
That has been on my watch list for a while. I have been meaning to watch that, so I will try and get to that this weekend. And Amazon also like sometimes is very annoying because I don't know if this is recent, but there have been reports coming out that Amazon is focusing more on making male centered, male focused content.
That makes
And
sense.
yeah, with
Mm,
the success of Invincible, The Boys, and now Ricky Stenicki and also Roadhouse, which are two new Amazon Prime movies that have been getting
right.
a lot of promotion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't care about. I mean, I like Jake Gyllenhaal, but I don't care about Roadhouse. Give me more stuff like I Am a Virgo.
yeah. We want more interesting things. Like I'm gonna be very honest. I'm still waiting on Phoebe Waller Bridge to bring
Same
me.
name. Same name.
Every time I mess it up, I always say Phoebe Bridgers first. It's like, no, girl,
Mm.
wrong Phoebe, the other
Different
one.
persons, basically the same name.
Basically the same name. I'm still waiting on Phoebe Waller-Bridge to bring me her next project. Like, girl,
Yeah.
Childish Gambino has a similar deal to you. He has brought us Swarm and Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we at with the new show? If I'm not gonna get Fleabag season two, I want something.
I
Like,
need something
why?
else.
I don't know
Fill a
why.
flea bag shaped hole.
Girl, you were in Indiana Jones and then radio silence.
Mm-hmm.
Is the pen moving? Are are the deals being made? I see nothing happening in the ethers field. Last time I googled Phoebe Waller-Bridge, I learned something about like her brother or her sister getting married. Like I need something new, girl.
Right.
Please. Like the girlies are waiting. I can't rewatch Fleabag again. The emotional damage I keep taking, like roll 10d8 for emotional damage. I got 20. I can't do it, girl. I can't. Like I have to be revived some way, please.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm a Virgo. It's definitely something I'm going to take the chance to watch. I'm also surprised that like I'm a Virgo didn't get a lot of promotion when Swarm did, because Donald Swarm and I'm a Virgo are very similar in like the surrealist area of
Hmm.
like content, but I believe that Swarm may have gotten more promotion just on its own for the fact that it's like a parody of Beyonce fans, you know.
Right. And I don't know, like I haven't actually looked at like what the marketing budget for it was. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
they're just like not targeting like ads at me for I'm a Virgo for whatever reason. I don't know why. Um, but like from what I've seen, again, like the only reason I ever heard about it is because I follow Boots Riley on Twitter and I
Mm-hmm.
saw him tweeting about it and I was like, oh, a Boots Riley TV show? Like, yes, I'm gonna go watch it.
Yeah.
And I've just been so frustrated and I'm like, I want a second season of this. I want people to
Yeah.
watch it.
I will say also like a lot of times there are people that kind of have a critique when people bring up marketing budgets because they're like, oh, well,
Hmm.
like, guys keep complaining about marketing and marketing. Like, how can you tell like these companies are not putting money behind the marketing? And I just want to say, marketing is a visual medium in a way. Like, you
Hmm.
can tell when they're putting money behind a show if you keep hearing about it and you're not
Yeah.
seeking it out. That's all marketing is. If I can scroll on Twitter and I see 3 different ads about Ricky Stenicki, that's marketing. That's all that it is. Like you just have
Hmm.
to post, you have to push it out there. And I
Yeah.
don't believe that I'm a Virgo really got that, if I'm being real. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's strange in comparison to Sorry to Bother You, which was a pretty solid movie that he made. And I think
Yeah.
that it definitely deserves, a bit more attention from Amazon Prime because y'all ain't running out of money. I know that's for sure.
Yeah.
So you could slide a dollar or something to the
Hmm.
team and let them know that we need to get to work on I'm a Virgo. But
Yeah.
it
We need to
it
get people watching this.
yeah, it sucks when they have new shows out and then it's just kind of like, oh, we
Don't
put
push
this thing
them.
out, yep, and they just let it die.
I literally have a Fire Stick. Like that's how I stream on my TV. And so I get ads for all of the Amazon Prime series and I never
Mm,
once got an ad for I'm a Virgo.
yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely take the time to watch that. There's also a show on Netflix that I started watching recently called Mask Girl, which is very
Hmm.
interesting. It's basically about this young woman, and I believe South Korea. Basically, she is not like conventionally attractive by their beauty standards, and she grew up wanting to be a pop star, and people were always telling her like, girl, you're ugly, that can't happen, like straight to her face, even her mother. So she grows up and has a boring job, and she becomes a live streaming celebrity where she puts on a mask, she puts on like sexy clothes, and she sings to the camera. And eventually her life starts to go downhill when one day she realizes that her boss that she is like in love with, which she shouldn't be, delusion girl, but he um is, I guess, sleeping with an intern or something that is conventionally attractive, and she gets sad and drunk and she shows her boobs on camera, which gets her banned from live streaming. And eventually at from that point her life goes downhill rapidly. Like it
Hmm.
gets worse. It is a suspenseful thriller, and I'm enjoying it so far. I think it's a lot of fun. Also, as someone who has been known to be like, as someone who identifies with like unconventionally attractive girlies, like watching this show, it's just kind of like, dang. I know I have my wits about me to never do this. So this is fun for me just to watch from the outside looking at. It's like, ooh, girl, I could have told you easily that man is not interested in you. I could have told you easily not to go there, not to do that. Like, mm-mm-mm. But I enjoy watching people make mistakes, and this is a very, very good show. And I always enjoy like Korean soap dramas, K dramas. That's kind of like my bag. I've been getting to that, and I've also been getting back into anime a little bit.
Hmm.
So that's something that I would recommend to people to check out. It is on Netflix. I'm not sure how many seasons there are of, but I'm kind of in the middle of season 1 right now. It's pretty good.
Nice.
Yeah. Hmm. Okay, so I would like to thank Amanda for coming on the show.
Thanks for
This
having
is
me.
this has been a treat. This has been a delight. It's so wonderful to have you on. I'm glad that we were able to talk about poor things. And where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube at Hoots YouTube. You
Mm-hmm.
can find me on Twitter at Punished Hoots. That's HOOTS. Um, and yeah, those are the two
Awesome.
things.
Guys, don't forget to check out Amanda on YouTube. Don't forget to check out her podcast as well. Don't forget to follow her on Twitter. All her links will be in the description down below. And don't forget to listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to, like and comment and do the things. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to the Patreon, and we will see you guys next week with another episode. New topic, new guests every single week. And don't forget to tell your friends and family about your new favorite podcast. I've been meaning to watch that. And we'll see you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.